Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 4 of Dirtmasters, the review series where I'm evaluating the upsides and downsides of each real rally car that features on Gran Turismo 6. So in this episode, as you can see, we're going to be reviewing the 1985 Nissan Silvia S110 Series 240RS Group B rally car. Take a deep breath before you say that. It's kind of a speciality car because it's rear-wheel drive. It has significantly less power than most of the other Group B cars of its time. So is it any good? What's it like to drive? Well, let's go to the track and see. So as we mentioned in our intro, the 240RS is kind of unique among rally cars on GT6 in that it's rear-wheel drive, and you'd think that that would be a disadvantage. Now in some ways it is, but in some ways it actually gives the car a good and unique handling signature. Now because of not being all-wheel drive, it has less understeer than most of the other rally cars, which allows it to have a better turning. Now for city tracks this is kind of wasted because you need to get a good flow going, so for low speed handling I'm going to give it a 3 because it's not bad, but it's not that great either. For brakes I'm going to give it a 4 because they are pretty good. And for acceleration, unsurprisingly, I'm going to give it a 3 because, like I said, it is a bit underpowered compared to some of the other rally cars of its type. And overall, for city tracks, I'm going to give it a 3 because it's not bad, but it feels like you're not really getting the best out of it on a track like this. So now let's see what it's like on a country track. Now, the advantage of a rear-wheel drive rally car is that you can really get a high-speed flow going better than most all-wheel drive rally cars, because with all-wheel drive rally cars, generally the faster you go, the more understeer you get. But with this car, particularly on tracks like this with more higher speed, twisty but not necessarily that tight flowing corners, you can actually get a great flow going. And for this track and tracks like it in general, I'm going to give it a strong 5 because it is actually really good to drive on this track. You don't notice the lack of power, and the handling is just perfect for this type of track. Now for high-end performance, I am going to have to give it a 3, because like I said, it's not that great power-wise, and it does feel quite sluggish, considering that especially it's a Group B rally car, and they're not exactly known for being slow in general. But for this track in general, like I said, I am going to give it a strong 5, because it handles brilliantly here. So that's it for our country track. Now let's see how it handles a dirt track. Now, as with all rally cars, this is the track that really matters the most. Because at the end of the day, rally cars are designed primarily for dirt tracks. So how does this car perform on a dirt track? Because as we've said, it does feel underpowered and it has the disadvantage of rear-wheel drive, which makes it harder to get your power down. Well, unfortunately, for the first time in any of my review videos, I'm actually going to give a car a 2 out of 5. And I hate to do that, because I don't like to give cars bad reviews, but it just wouldn't be fair to give this car a 3 out of 5 on this track when there are cars which are so much better. So unfortunately for dirt tracks, it's going to be a 2 out of 5, because it is not very good. The handling is okay, nothing special to be honest, but the rear-wheel drive makes it almost impossible to get the power down properly, and the performance just feels agonisingly slow. Even in this, which is its fully tuned form, putting out 440 horsepower, it still feels woefully underpowered. Uphill the performance is, I'm sorry, terrible. It is so slow on this track uphill that it ended up being 20 seconds slower than the other rally cars of this series around this track. And I don't get why, because it's not that much slower on any of the other track types, but for some reason on dirt it is miles slower. Like we said, 20 seconds slower. So overall for dirt tracks, I'm afraid it's going to be a 2 out of 5. Now for drivability, I'm going to give it a 4, because it is a drivable car. As we said, it's not very good for dirt tracks, but for other track types and track types in general, it is quite easy to drive, considering that you'd expect it to be quite a slippery car because of the rear-wheel drive, but it's actually not. It's very easy to get a hang of the car, it's easy to drive it fast, and it's easy to get a good flow going. So that's it for our dirt track. Now let's see if it performs, hopefully, any better than that on a snow track. So the 240 RS performed surprisingly badly overall on a dirt track. Can it redeem itself on a snow track? Well, actually, thankfully, it can. And the reason why is because of that rear-wheel drive. The same thing that made it bad on dirt tracks is actually what makes it so good on snow tracks, and that is the rear-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive allows you to get the back end out and really flow around these high-speed snow corners, and as we've said before, it's that flow that you really need on a snow track. So for snow tracks, I am actually going to give this car a 4 out of 5, because it is pretty good, even despite its lack of power. Because on snow tracks, power isn't as important as you'd think, because you can get a good flow going even in a car with significantly less power, as is showcased by this car here. So overall, it's kind of an up and down car. It's good at some things, not so good at others. But that's it overall for our track testing of the car. So now let's go back to the garage finally for a roundup of its best and worst points. So overall, the 240 RS is not a bad car. I don't want you guys to get the wrong impression and think that I'm saying that this is a completely useless car. It's certainly not. For high-speed handling, in fact, I'm giving it a strong 5 because it is very good and you can keep an excellent flow going on high-speed tracks. The main word of caution I would give about this car, though, is be very, very selective about where you choose to use it. Because if you choose it on the right track, you'll get a great flow going and you will be able to keep up with, if not beat, cars with significantly more power. But if you choose it on the wrong track, you might as well just use a street car. It's that slow, as we've established. On dirt tracks, I would just not recommend using this car. For snow tracks, I definitely would, because it's very, very good, very easy to drive, especially considering that many people find snow tracks quite challenging. And this car is very forgiving and fast on tracks that are snow-based. So overall, I would say its best point is actually the rear-wheel drive handling. It allows you to have very good high-speed handling that's still nice and loose for the high-speed corners and for a flow, as we said, on snow tracks. The worst point, funnily enough, is actually the same thing. The worst point is also that it's rear-wheel drive, but for a different reason. Because on city tracks and dirt tracks, you just cannot get the power down as well as an all-wheel drive car, and the rear-wheel drive just isn't justified on those type of tracks. It's really nothing but a disadvantage for you. So overall, I would say it's very good for high-speed road-based tracks and snow tracks, but not very good for city tracks and dirt tracks. Plus, you have to bear in mind that if you're looking to buy a rally car that's going to serve you very well and win most of your rallies, you can get a lot better for a lot less. This is a 750,000 credit car, so it is very expensive considering how powerful or how unpowerful it is compared to its rivals. Now, as always, I'll put the car's specifications, its ratings and its lap times in the video description if you want to compare it to the other rally cars. And that's it for this episode. So see you next time, and as always, thanks for watching.